13 potentially dangerous vulnerabilities. Remote code execution in Windows Point-to-Point Protocol (PPP), CV 2022-30-133, CV 2022-35-744. The Point-to-Point Protocol (PPP) is the default RAS (Remote Access Service Protocol) in Windows and is a data link layer protocol used to encapsulate higher network layer protocols to pass over synchronous and asynchronous communication lines. Both vulnerabilities allow attackers to send requests to the remote access server, which can lead to the execution of malicious code on the machine, and both have the same CVSS score 9 and 8. These vulnerabilities can only be exploited by communicated via port 1723. As a temporary workaround prior to installing the updates that address this vulnerability, you can block traffic through that port, thus rendering the vulnerability unexploitable. Warning: disabling port 1723 could affect communication over your network. Exploitability Assessment, Exploitation Less Likely. Remote code execution in Windows Secure Socket Tunneling Protocol (SSTP), CV 2022-35-766, CV 2022-35-794. SSTP is a VPN tunneling protocol designed to secure your online traffic. Successful exploitation of this vulnerability requires an attacker to win a race condition. An unauthenticated attacker could send a specially crafted connection request to a RAS (Remote Access Service) server, which could lead to remote code execution (RCE) on the RAS server machine. Exploitability Assessment, Exploitation Less Likely. Remote code execution in SMB client and server, CV 2022-35-804. The server side of this vulnerability would allow a remote, unauthenticated attacker to execute code with elevated privileges on affected SMB servers. Interestingly, this bug only affects Windows 11, which implies some new functionality introduced this vulnerability. Either way, this could potentially be wormable between affected Windows 11 systems with SMB server enabled. Disabling SMB version 3 compression is a workaround for this bug, but applying the update is the best method to remediate the vulnerability. This vulnerability is reminiscent of past SMB vulnerabilities, such as the Eternal Blue SMB version 1 flaw patched in MS-17-010 in March of 2017 that was exploited as part of the WannaCry incident, in addition to the more recent CV 2020-0796 Eternal Darkness RCE flaw in SMB 3.1.1. Remote code execution in Visual Studio, CV 2022-35-777, CV 2022-35-825, CV 2022-35-826, CV 2022-35-827. The existence of a public exploit is mentioned in Microsoft CVSS temporal score, proof of concept exploit. None of the vendors highlighted these vulnerabilities, but it seems that these can be used in targeted phishing against developers. Elevation of privilege in Active Directory, CV 2022-34-691. An authenticated user could manipulate attributes on computer accounts they own or manage and acquire a certificate from Active Directory certificate services that would allow elevation of privilege to system. The advisory notes that exploitation is only possible when Active Directory certificate services is running on the domain. Exploitability Assessment, Exploitation Less Likely. Remote code execution in Windows Network File System, CVE 2022-34715. This is now the 4th month in a row with an NFS code execution patch. To exploit this, a remote unauthenticated attacker would need to make a specially crafted call to an affected NFS server. This would provide the threat actor with code execution at elevated privileges. Although we have not yet seen the actual exploitation of such vulnerabilities. Elevation of privilege in Windows Print Spooler, CVE 2022-35793, CVE 2022-35755. The Print Spooler is software built into the Windows operating system that temporarily stores print jobs in the computer's memory until the printer is ready to print them. CVE 2022-35755 can be exploited using a specially crafted input file, while exploitation of CVE 2022-35793 requires a user click on a specially crafted URL. Both would give the attacker system privileges. Both vulnerabilities can be mitigated by disabling the Print Spooler service, but CVE 2022-35793 can also be mitigated by disabling inbound remote printing via group policy.